Hi guys, welcome to a collection video, first one of 2013. This is going to be my Megadrive collection, part 1. And in this part, it's going to be mainly black box games and also the EA box games as well. Got a lot of games. I'm going to try and talk about each one as we go along, so there's going to be a lot to get through, so this might be a long vid, so you know, put the kettle on, make yourself a cup of tea, you know, get yourself a drink, because it might be a long one, so let's get started. First game I've got here, this is quite a recent addition to my collection, but I've had a little bit of time to have a go on it, have a good go on it, and it's a really good game, and that is Ghostbusters. Fun game. I remember seeing this game a lot in the shops as a kid. It always used to put me off. I remember seeing the screenshots in the back and just seeing the very cutesy characters, and that always put me off from buying the game, even though I loved Ghostbusters. But really glad I have it now. It's a really great game, so happy with that. Next game I've got here is two Crude Dudes. This is one that I've never played with before. Sort of found out about this game quite recently as well. It's a fun game. It's a 2D side-scrolling beat 'em up, but it only works on one plane. Just great arcadey action, and yeah, a lot of fun. So happy with that. Next game I've got here. This is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Have yet to play this, so can't really comment on it. Never played it as a kid either, so I hear it's not all that, but you know, I'll give it a try, see what it's like. Next game, The Jungle Book. It's actually quite a fun game. Like all Disney games, I think during the 90s, they were well made. Probably not my favourite of the 90s Disney games, but it's a lot of fun. It's the graphics are really nice, the music's good, and yeah, enjoyable platform game. Next game I've got here is Street Fighter 2 Special Championship Edition. Now, this game is one of the games I've had since I was a kid. Really fantastic port of Street Fighter 2. No one thought it could be done on the Megadrive, and Capcom did a phenomenal job. You know, one of my top 10 games. Fantastic, loved it. Next game I've got here is Golden Axe 2. I've never really been a big fan of the Golden Axe series. I was more of a Streets of Rage man myself, but it's all right. You know, it plays well. You know, if you like, you know, barbarians and that sort of fantasy sort of games, then yeah, it's a good game. I think a lot of people say they prefer the first one. I disagree. I think I prefer this one. I think the controls are a little bit tighter, but yeah, that's just me. But it's a fun game nonetheless. Another game I've got here is Zombies, or as it was known in the US, is Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Great two-player game. Just one of those fun games. Great pick up and play. Gets really hard. I think this game had about 50 odd levels. I never got anywhere near that. I think I got as far as maybe level 13, I think, or 14. Didn't get very far into this game, but it's a lot of fun. Great two-player co-op action, and it's very popular amongst Mega Drive owners and SNES owners as well. So yeah, great game. Next game I've got here is Thunder Force 4. I think in the US this is known as Lightning Force. Brilliant shoot 'em up. I wish I had this as a kid, because I'd never heard of this game as a kid. But it's fantastic. Graphically, brilliant. Music's excellent. Great gameplay. Very flashy. This really is one of those games that shows off what the Mega Drive could do. Yeah, one of the best shooters on the Mega Drive that at least was released in the West anyway. But fantastic, well worth getting. Next game here is, wait, no, I've got that already. Streets of Rage. What can be said about the Streets of Rage series, classic series? This, I was more into, the second game is my favourite, but this one is still excellent. I played them in order. The first time I ever played Streets of Rage was this one. It's a brilliant, brilliant game. Great scrolling beat 'em up. I think most Mega Drive collectors have heard of this series, so you know, if you are collecting for the Mega Drive, the Streets of Rage series is a must-have. Next game I've got here is Tiny Toons Adventures, Buster's Hidden Treasure. Great 2D platform game. Nothing really wrong with it. It's solid all the way. I mean, I was more familiar with the Super Nintendo version as a kid, but this is a really, really great game regardless, and definitely worth adding to the collection for sure. Next game I've got here is Gynorg. I believe in the US this was called Wings of War, if I'm not mistaken. Really great shoot 'em up. Probably my favourite on the Mega Drive actually. You would think it'd be Thunder Force 4, but no, I prefer this one actually. You know, it's an early game in the Mega Drive. Doesn't have the fanciest graphics, but I just really like the style of it. I like the music. It's a lot of fun. So solid shoot 'em up all the way. Next game I've got here is the classic Outrun. I think most of us, at least that are into Sega, know about Outrun. Arcade machine back in the day. Fun game. You know, these racing games nowadays have aged quite badly, I think, on the 16-bit systems. I prefer the later incarnation of Outrun, I think it's the 2006 version. But in terms of, you know, classic old school gaming, then this is still a fun game. You know, Outrun is a classic series, and it was a decent port on the Mega Drive. I've got the follow-up here, Outrun 2019. This one I actually had as a kid, so I've got a lot of fun memories of this game. I played it to death. You know, set in the future, really odd choice. I know this game wasn't very popular with people for the most part, but this was a game that I really enjoyed as a kid. So you know, it remains a favourite. Obviously, the game has aged, but I enjoyed it a lot as a kid, and the memories still hold up. So yeah. Next game I've got here is Ranger X. This is a really cool game. I'm surprised that I don't think a lot of people bought this game back in the day. I think it came quite late in the Mega Drive life cycle. I remember seeing this game in the shops, but I think I was moving on to PlayStation by that point. But it's a really good game, really cool concept. It's a 2D side-scrolling game where you sort of control, I think, a mech robot, I think. And he also has sort of like a carriage vehicle that he sort of morphs. He can join up with, but then when you're part of the vehicle, you control the vehicle, but you can separate from the vehicle, and you can sort of leave the vehicle on the ground while you sort of fly off and take out enemies from the air and whatnot. Really cool concept, quite tricky to get into, but it's an otherwise very fun game, and I would definitely recommend this to Mega Drive and Genesis owners. And here we've got probably one of the rarest games in the Mega Drive library, and that is Sonic the Hedgehog. Okay, obviously I'm joking. Anyway, yes, Sonic, great game. Got me into Sega. I was into Nintendo beforehand. I was all set to get a Super Nintendo, but obviously the Mega Drive came out first. I remember when I saw this game in '91, and I was sold. Had to have it. Brilliant game, holds up to this day, and fantastic. So, not more I can say about Sonic. It's classic. It's held up. Brilliant. Next game I've got here is Atomic Runner. This is a side-scrolling run and gun game. I think this game was on the Amiga back in the days. It's a fun game, but it's made really, really hard due to the controls. You can't actually point backwards, and the screen sort of moves along. So this game is incredibly hard. But I think if I spent some time with this, I could probably get good at it. But due to the nature of the controls, it's more frustrating than it ought to be. But still worth a try for sure. Next game here is Rocket Knight Adventures. Fantastic 2D platform game. A lot of fun, great Konami game. Very underrated at the time. I think this game has gotten popular with people since, but I remember at the time it was sadly overlooked. It's a shame because it's a brilliant, brilliant game. Next one I've got here, this is the classic Strider. Great port from the arcade, a lot of fun, great side-scrolling action. One of the best games on the Megadrive for sure. It's great arcade action, highly recommended. Next game I've got here, this is Sparkstar, and this is the sequel to Rocket Knight Adventures. Again, another solid entry, great game, great 2D platform in action, a lot of fun. Next game I've got here, this is Spider-Man, a very early title in the Mega Drive run, and one of my favourites. I really enjoyed this game as a kid. I know a lot of people today don't like it as much. I'm probably in the minority. I'm one of the people that really did enjoy this game. And it's actually probably the only Spider-Man game that allows you to do something that Spider-Man is well known for in the comics that no other game has touched upon since. And that was being able to take pictures of your villains and that you would in turn sell and to buy webbing. It's a great feature. That's something that's part of the character. No other game has done that since, at least to my knowledge. But yeah, I mean, this game isn't going to convince people if they play it today for the first time. But I think for those of us that played it as a kid, it was a great game. And I will stand by this game. A lot of fun. Next game I've got here is Sonic 2. What more can be said about it? I think this was most people's favourite Sonic game. I really enjoyed it a lot as a kid. Great two-player action with Tails. It was great to be able to play with a mate as well. Classic game. What can be said? Next game I've got here is the Terminator. You know, it's a decent side-scrolling action game. Probably not the best in the Mega Drive library, but it's certainly not the worst game either. Solid fun, can be hard, but yeah, fun game. Next game I've got here is Aladdin. I'm gonna say, as a Mega Drive owner, I'd actually never played this game before. I was more familiar with the Aladdin game on the Super Nintendo, which was made by Capcom. This one was made by, I think, was it Virgin? Yeah, it was made by Virgin. So it was, even though they were, you know, both based on Aladdin, there were two different games. So I've only played this game as an adult, so I don't have the nostalgic memories for this game. But it is fun. It's a very enjoyable game. I think I still prefer the Super Nintendo version to this, simply just because that was the one that I played and I completed. But it's a great game. Very nice looking, some of the best graphics on the Mega Drive. I do remember this game being very popular at the time. But yeah, it's a lot of fun game, so happy to own it now. Next game I've got here, this is actually my favourite game of all time, and that is Streets of Rage 2. They really improved upon the first game. Better graphics, better gameplay, better music. Just fantastic all round. Absolute classic, must have for the Mega Drive. Next game I've got here is Batman. Really good side-scrolling action game. You've got different modes of play. I believe there's a shoot 'em up section as well. I haven't put in a lot of time into this game, but it's definitely a lot of fun, and I think that if you like Batman, this is definitely one that you should seek out. Next game I've got here is Arrow Flash. This is a shoot 'em up where you sort of pilot a ship that can turn into a robot. Fun game, very basic graphics. It's definitely an early title. It's not going to win any awards, but it's a solid shoot 'em up nonetheless. Next game I've got here is Strider 2. In my opinion, this is a good game. I know fellow YouTuber Kimball Justice, he did a video on this game. Didn't have a lot of nice things to say, but I thought this is a fun game. Very, very different from the original, seeing as it was made by a different developer. But I think it's a fun game. I enjoy it, and I'm glad to own it in my collection. Next one I've got here is Captain America and the Avengers. Fun arcade game. It was like a scrolling beat 'em up slash shoot 'em up. I remember at the time I was slightly disappointed by the game. I wasn't really a fan of the graphics. I thought the sprites were a little bit too small. But it's a lot of fun, especially in the 2-player modes. Just very arcadey. I believe there was also a port of this on the Super Nintendo, but most people favour the Megadrive version. Next game I've got here is Mortal Kombat. This is actually my original copy from, I think it was bought in, was it 92 or 93? I can't remember now. I got it for my birthday. I remember just harassing my mum to get me this game. Mortal Kombat was a phenomenon back in the day. You know, and I loved this game. It was gory as hell, a lot of fun. I know most people prefer the sequel. I do too. I mean, the later games, in my opinion, were better. But as a starting off point, it was a fantastic game. You know, it was very different to Street Fighter. I was more into Street Fighter than I was into Mortal Kombat, but I appreciated the game for what it was. And very, very happy to have this one. I'm glad that this is still my original copy from when I was about 13. So, yeah, great game. Next game I've got here is Maximum Carnage. This is a scrolling beat 'em up where you can play as Spider-Man or Venom. I know this game got a lot of mixed opinions from people, and I never got to play this as a kid. I always wanted to play this game as a kid, but I ended up getting the sequel instead. Probably the one downside to this game is that it's only one player. They eventually fixed that for the sequel, but strangely enough, the graphics got worse. This has better graphics than the second game. But in any case, I think it's a fun game, and if you like scrolling beat 'em ups, this is definitely one you should seek out. Speaking of scrolling beat 'em ups, Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, the Hyperstone Heist. Yes, notice that I said Hero Turtles and not Ninja Turtles, and that is because here in Europe, the word ninja was not something we could use because it was a banned word. It was a banned, well, obviously we could say it, but in terms of media, it wasn't allowed to be used. So we ended up getting Hero Turtles. This is essentially a loose port of Turtles in Time. They sort of took out a few levels, I believe. I'm not that familiar with this version compared to the Super Nintendo version. I have played it obviously, but it's essentially the same game, but just sort of reworked and changed around a little bit. But still a fun side-scrolling beat 'em up, and definitely needs to be in everyone's Mega Drive / Genesis collection. Next game I've got here, now this is one that I loved as a kid, and that is Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck World of Illusion. Fantastic game, great 2-player co-op action. I had a lot of fun with this game. I completed it multiple times, both by myself and with a mate. I love the fact that when you play with a friend, the levels are slightly different. That require you to work together to get through them. So that was really nice concept. You know, slightly different level design depending on how you played. Classic game. A lot of fun memories of this, and definitely recommend it to those that are collecting for the Megadrive. Castlevania, the new generation, or as it's known in the US, Castlevania Bloodlines. One of the best Castlevania games, hands down, in my opinion. Not as good as Castlevania 4 on the Super Nintendo, but very, very close. Fantastic music, great graphics. Konami really did a good job on this game. They made the most of the system, played it to the system's strengths, and delivered a fantastic Castlevania game. Highly recommend, guys. If you're a fan of Castlevania, chances are you already know of this game. It's a must-have game if you're a Castlevania fan, and it's definitely a must-have game if you collect for the Mega Drive or Genesis. Next game I've got here is Robocop versus Terminator. And I can tell you now, guys, when I was a kid, I loved this game. I really did. This was one of the best games that I had as a kid. Played it to death. Great 2D side-scrolling action. This is actually my favourite Robocop game. There was a few others. They weren't very good in my opinion. This is the best. Controls really well. Great levels. Great weapons. And yeah, just a great fan game. Brilliant. Worth getting as well, guys. Next game I've got here is Shinobi 3. What can I say? Classic game. A lot of fun. Great side-scrolling action. In my opinion, probably the best in the series. I actually prefer Shadow Dancer. I know a lot of people don't agree with me, but that was the game that I sort of grew up with, and that's the one that I have nostalgia for. But this one is fantastic as well. Great graphics. They really improved. They improved all the graphics on this game, and in my opinion, definitely a must-have for the Mega Drive / Genesis. Okay, next game I've got here, and this is Micro Machines Turbo Tournament 96. The Micro Machines games have always been fun. You know, they have the cart with the added pad ports, so you could play 4-player co-op on this. Just a great party game. Great to play with your mates around. Highly recommended, guys. It's a solid series, all of them. Yeah, fun game. Next game I've got here is FIFA International Soccer. I remember I bought this game on day one, and it was a fantastic game. Before this game, I really did not like football games. But this one was, at the time, this was amazing. The graphics on this game at the time was fantastic. Really was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with this game. I spent a long time with this game. I remember completing it, winning the, I think it was the World Cup tournament. Just a great game, guys. I mean, just because it's a sports game doesn't mean that they're not good games. I mean, I know that, you know, the FIFA series has had its ups and downs, but this is where it started, and it still remains a great football game to this day. Next game I've got here, and this is my only cardboard box game, and that is Universal Soldier. Yeah, based on the Van Damme film, but I don't think the game has got anything to do with it. The license was very loosely based. This game essentially is a Turrican clone. I'll get to Turrican later on in part 2, but it was essentially a run and gun shooter that you think was on the Amiga, and I think what they did with this, they just basically took the license or took the engine and just sort of shut out a game, really. It's alright, it's a lot of fun, but it's got nothing to do with Universal Soldier. Next game I've got here is Gauntlet 4. Yeah, cool top-down action game. I've never really been a big fan of Gauntlet, but it is fun. Just great arcadey action. If that's what you like, I think most people have got Gauntlet in some form or another. But it's a lot of fun regardless. So yeah, solid game. Next game I've got here is Alien Storm. I think this is a very underappreciated Sega game. It's a scrolling, I suppose it is a beat 'em up, but you don't actually fight with your fists, you do use weapons. And it's a lot of fun. You've got 2-player co-op on this, and there were sort of shooting sections as well. Yeah, very underappreciated I think at the time, but I think a lot of people have since recognised this game. But in my personal opinion, this is definitely worth hunting down if you're picking up for the Megadrive. Next game I've got here is Green Dog, the Beach Surfer Dude. Just a solid 2D platform game, nothing really special about it, but it's solid, it works, it's a lot of fun. But obviously there are a lot better 2D platform games on the Megadrive, but it's a solid game in my opinion. So yeah, fun game. Next one I've got here is Batman Returns. In my opinion, not as good as the first Batman game. Can be quite tricky to get used to. I think the controls were a little bit fiddly, but it's a solid 2D platforming action game. Next game I've got here, and that is Cool Spot. Really good platform game in my opinion. At the time, this Cool Spot was the mascot for 7-Up, which is fizzy drink. And it's a really good game, great graphics. It was a lot of fun. I remember playing this quite a lot as a kid. And yeah, it's just another solid platform game. And the next one I've got here is Elise Dragoon. Really great platform action game. Unique attack system with this. You sort of have a dragon companion with you, and you sort of fire lightning from your hands. Yeah, it's a cool game. Next game I've got here, and this is another licensed game, and that is Predator 2. What this is, it's sort of like a top-down / isometric shooter. We sort of control a character across the screen and you sort of battle it out. Really cool game, I actually really enjoy this. It's got that nice sort of, kind of reminds me of Gauntlet a little bit. A lot of fun. In my opinion, it's definitely worth tracking down. Next game I've got here is Flashback. And this is a very cool game. This was a 2D platform game, very much like Another World. Just a fun sort of cyberpunky, very ahead of its time. I believe most people that know the Abe games, Abe's Odyssey, Abe's Exodus, plays a lot like that. Very platform, sort of puzzle-based gameplay. You know, not to everybody's taste, but it's definitely one of those games that I think was a bit of a cult game at the time, and people appreciate it because at least it tries to do something very different, and the graphics were very, very good for its day. So yeah, great game. Next game I've got here is Alien 3. Not the best film, but the game was definitely a really good one. Probably one of the best action platform games on the Megadrive, so definitely worth checking out, guys, for sure. Next game I've got here is Superman, the Man of Steel. This is an okay platform game, not the best. I know a lot of people don't like this game, but I think it's alright. It's a Sunsoft game, it works, but you're not missing much. Next game I've got here is Mazen Wars. Really cool game. This is another sort of scrolling beat 'em up style of game. I think it's based on a Japanese anime. Probably my only issue with the game is that I think the sprites of the characters are a little bit too small, but otherwise it's a very cool game. Here's one of my favourites, and that is Sunset Riders. Great port of the arcade game. It's 2-player co-op. You've got a choice of 3 characters. Great sort of run and gun game, a lot of fun. Next game I've got here is Landstalker, The Treasures of King Noel. Great isometric style RPG. Very cool game actually, very nice graphics. I think a lot of people do praise this game, but it does get overlooked by a lot of people as well. Just a solid RPG on the Megadrive. Next game I've got here, this is another shoot 'em up, and that is Empire of Steel. This is one where you sort of control an airship. You have a choice between an airship and a plane. Really cool game in my opinion, solid shoot 'em up. If you like shoot 'em ups on the Megadrive, this is definitely one that's worth getting, and it's not expensive either. Another shoot 'em up here, and that is Hellfire. This game seems to split a lot of opinions. Personally, I think it's a really great shoot 'em up. But I know that some shoot 'em up fans don't like it that much, but I think it's a solid game. Next game I've got here is Mystic Defender. This plays very much like Alicia Dragoon. Has the same sort of combat style. It's a solid 2D platform action game. Next games I've got here, this one is Dick Tracy. Really cool game. It's an early game on the Megadrive, and it has a really cool way of playing. A lot of fun, guys. Definitely worth tracking down. Next game I've got here, this is Shadow Dancer. This is my favourite of the Shinobi series. You're partnered up with a dog. You get to control the dog as well at various points. Very arcadey. I believe it is based on an arcade game. It's a great port as well, so I love this game. And next one I've got here is Chacon. I believe in the US, Chacon the Forever Man. Cool 2D platform game, but very hard. Okay, next game I've got here is Rolling Thunder 2. This is a great side-scrolling shooter, or platform shooter game, based on an arcade game, and it's a lot of fun. Another shoot 'em up here, this is Truxton. I think a lot of people have heard of this one. It's a solid shooter. Nothing more I can say about it really, it's a great game. Again, another shoot 'em up here, and that is Philios. Very unique shooter. This one is takes characters from Greek mythology. It's a lot of fun, and it's very hard as well. It's quite an obscure game as well. Definitely worth tracking down, guys. Next game I've got here is XMen. Had a lot of fun with this game back in the day. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. The sequel is better in my opinion, but this is definitely a solid game in the series of X-Men games. Okay, on here. Next game I've got here, and this is Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Yeah, this is a great game. Very early game in the Megadrive life cycle. But it's a brilliant game. You get to do some sort of like a 2D action slash beat 'em up. You get to use Michael Jackson's moves. You can dance around to take out enemies. Really cool game. Quite different, and I think that's what appeals to a lot of people. Next game I've got here, these are going to be in reverse order. I've got Road Rash 3. I've got Road Rash 2. And Road Rash. Great series of motorcycle games. You can knock people off their bikes. They got better as the series went on. Really great games, and must have for the Megadrive for sure. And the next game I've got here is Blades of Vengeance. This is a really cool 2D side-scrolling action game. You get a choice of 3 characters. And it's a solid game. Not a lot of people talk about this game, but I think it's a really good side-scrolling action game. And lastly, I have the Strike series. So we've got Desert Strike. Jungle Strike, and Urban Strike. Really great games. Isometric helicopter games. Classics in my opinion. I remember I played the Desert Strike and Jungle Strike when I was a kid. Never played Urban Strike before until I got it. Great games. Very hard, but very addictive. So yeah. That's it guys. That's the end of part 1. Be back with part 2 where I'll be showing you all my blue box games and some of my Genesis exclusives as well. So thanks very much for watching guys. If you like this video, please don't forget to rate, comment and subscribe. And I will see you again in part 2. Bye for now.